Hello, DF people! Exclamation point! New and grateful member here. Should Nintendo complement the Switch 2 with a home-only variant? It's a logical evolution. Switch 2 Home would leverage the full-core Orin GPU configuration paired with faster 128-bit RAM for more bandwidth and a bespoke 4/5 nanometer process that pushes sustained clocks significantly higher. Crucially, 4K DLSS capable at $349 with Pro Controller, it offers compelling value when the hybrid's price is unlikely to drop this generation. Developers benefit from a unified, scalable architecture that's simpler than Series S/X. Think of Switch 2 Home as a super docked mode, more powerful, affordable, and purpose-built. So, Tom, I put it to you that this is actually quite a nice idea that's never going to happen because it kind of undermines the whole point of the Switch itself.
I can sense Philip H's excitement about this idea. It's kind of contagious as well. I'm excited about this, just hearing that sort of elevator pitch. Well, it's a long elevator ride, actually. But yeah, I think the way Nintendo has historically sort of veered with their marketing of Switch is towards the portable as the next iteration, right? With was it the Switch Lite or the only handheld model? It was that's the sort of direction they go towards, being a mobile-based chipset. I love the idea of a dedicated home version, but in terms of the marketing of this thing as well, they're only going to consider these variations of Switch 2-3 years down the line as well. And I think ideally they'd be looking to avoid making more SKUs, more platform, more specs for developers to target. I think they've got enough on their plate with, a docked and portable optimizations for docked and portable play on Switch 2. But besides that, I love the idea. Yeah, I could definitely take that. It's sort of veering more into, the PlayStation 5 territory, I guess, which is already quite a contested market. But yeah, I could see it selling.
I mean, I think based on these mooted specs, I think we need to go to a 256-bit interface to get more out of the much larger GPU. Memory bandwidth really is an issue on pretty much all handheld devices, and I'm fairly sure it would be the same on Switch 2 as well. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a wish list of things that you'd want for like a mid-generation refresh for the Switch 2 almost. But I think ultimately the whole point of the Switch is the fact that it is a hybrid console that fulfills both roles. And that's kind of like its unique selling point. It kind of like, this is like a variant of the second GPU in the dock argument that we often hear about, or mooted idea. It sort of sounds cool on paper, but you start to think it through, it doesn't quite make sense. But Oliver, I mean, Nintendo has done handheld machines and home consoles in the past. This would kind of like resolve the issue of having to have two separate banks of developers. It could work, right?
That's true. I mean, it's interesting, but I doubt Nintendo, especially being Nintendo, would want to split the line with a model that has greater processing power. And in particular, the specs that are being mooted here, including 4K DLSS, that's a really high standard for a new chip to meet. I think if they did do this, it would probably just be a Switch 2 T239 that's like a clock tire, maybe with a die shrink, maybe without, but probably not a brand new chip. More like the Switch 1 kind of Pro model of a shrunk down chip, maybe with some enhanced clock rates and whatnot, instead of being a totally new chip. But I think the more likely thing is they just stick with the existing line of products that they had for Switch 1, that kind of maybe a light model down the line, maybe an OLED model with improved battery life, things like this, because they didn't have that option last generation, and that would have been a plausible option for them to go down last generation, and they didn't, so presumably that same logic would hold through this generation. But I will admit there is some nice symmetry, the idea of like a Switch 2 in the middle, and then a Switch Lite on the one end in only portable mode configuration, and then a Switch 2 like home console on the other end with like a more extreme performance configuration and only home console play. The prospect of a boosted GPU would be nice, though I think that if you were to go down the T239 route, that it would only be a clock bump on the cores probably there, because the T239 memory controller might be limited to 64 100 megatransfers per second speeds. That's a common theory. And I don't think Nintendo would boost the CPU by that much either, especially given the fact that they keep it so relatively static between portable and docked mode already. So if they did do this within like reasonable bounds, I would not expect a big performance boost. And honestly, I think that Nintendo would just rather not introduce that like third configuration. I think that's something they're probably not inclined to do.
I think the other thing, of course, is that Nintendo famously, since the GameCube era, has not been concerned about performance, really, in terms of the hardware makeup of their processors. In terms of their software, they're actually right on it. But when it comes to the hardware, they've kind of like stepped back from the console arms race and done something different. Worked spectacularly well with the Wii, collapsed horrendously with the Wii U, but then Switch comes along and it's a brand new concept that resonated and kind of demonstrated that you can actually do something different. It doesn't need to be cutting-edge silicon, and it can be really, really great. And it also sort of highlighted, as I've said many times, the concept that developers work with the resources that they're given, and often produce some fantastic results that seemingly defy the level of the hardware. So yeah, really nice idea. I'd love to see it, but I don't think it's going to happen.